Today on the Angel of Word Show, we will feature Bronx photographer Edgar Santana. It's a 718 thing. If you ever saw that billboard, that's who's going to be here. Next on the Angel of Words podcast. Hello and welcome again to the Angel of Words podcast. I am your host, Angel of Words, and today I have with me a very special human being, Mr. Photographer Man from the Bronx, Edgar Santana, is in the building, sir. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. But first and foremost, I gotta ask you a question before we even get started on your accolades as a photographer.
What's up?
How do you grow up in the Bronx and are a Meth fan, bro? How does that happen? You know what? I'm just curious. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I've heard of that before.
It's definitely possible. My dad is a Meth fan. He grew up in the Bronx. My grandfather's a Meth fan. Growing up in the Bronx in the 80s, the Mets were the team to be. You know,
that's a fact.
I mean, they won the 86 series. The Yankees in the 80s sucked.
Yeah, they were irrelevant. All we had was Don Mattingly and ...
So the Mets had the squad in the 80s, and, growing up in the 80s, you kind of gravitate toward, who your parents like. Again, my dad was a Met fan, so I gravitated toward the Mets, and, the fact that, again, they were the hot team in the 80s, they were just the team that I gravitated to. And I've been a diehard since probably 87.
I respect that, man.
Yeah.
I respect that. I respect the roots there.
It
makes perfect sense. I mean, they were popping in the 80s. If you were born in the 80s, that was the wave.
79. But I've been, diehard ever since. And, it's been tough growing up in the Bronx and being a Met fan. But there's only a few of us out there. But they're out there.
Now, were you born and raised in the Bronx?
Yeah, I was born and raised 40 years ago in North Central Hospital, Bronx, Norwood section. Grew up in Pelham Gardens. I lived there for 36 years. I lived in Pelham Bay for 2 years, and I currently live in Woodlawn for the past year and a half. So, yeah. Bronx.
Nice. Did you have a big family growing up?
I just have my parents and my sister, my grandparents that lived, in Belmont, the Belmont section of the Bronx. Other than that, I have a very, very small family.
Okay. Well, now, was it tough for you growing up in the Bronx? Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Mount St. Michael, all-boy high school.
Okay. Catholic school, I would imagine.
Catholic school, yeah. So, I didn't have a hard time at all. I gravitated toward the fashionably, conscious people because I was.
Okay.
So, I actually still have a few friends from high school that I'm very close with. So, I had a good time in high school. It was
all right, so that's kind of like where you develop your eye for beauty. You were always into fashion. So there was no bullying going on in school. You were just with the cool dudes hanging out all day like, yo.
Well, not necessarily
getting
like
fresh
that.
all day, huh?
Not necessarily like that. But, again, I didn't get bullied or anything like that in school. Yeah.
Now, did you start taking pictures in high school? Like, where did you develop that skill?
I always was into photography.
Okay.
When I was younger, I used to carry a disposable camera with me all the time. Probably got into it more or less when I graduated high school, probably 97, 98. I used to go down to the Hunts Point car racings. There were illegal races in Hunts Point. And I always used to have a little camera with me, and I would take pictures of the cars.
Wow.
So from then on, I kind of just always took pictures of kind of random things. Okay. It wasn't until 2011 when I created my first Instagram account that I had an opportunity to actually share my photos. Just like in the beginning of everybody, when they create an account, you posting pictures of what you eat, what you're drinking, an empty beer bottle, stupid shit. But I started being inspired by a lot of the people that I used to follow. So kind of changed my whole style, and I started posting more street-centric stuff. I started getting recognition. I think my first real photo that got recognized was a mural in the Bronx. It was reposted by NBC4.
Oh, nice. What was the mural about? Was it just something cultural?
No. It was just a very cartoony mural.
Okay.
It was just a cool pic, and they reposted it, and from there it got like a bunch of likes, and I got a bunch of recognition for it. So from then on, it was around the holidays, I took it upon myself to kind of make a New Year's resolution that I was going to take it a little more serious and really focus on the Bronx. And the reason why I do that is because the Bronx changes daily. The Bronx is definitely the last true borough out of the 5 boroughs, and it changes daily. Like a lot of the photos that you see on my feed, whether it be a year, 2, 3 years ago, you look at those pictures, and whether it be a mural, a building, a business, a car, doesn't even exist anymore. So I'm trying to preserve that, and that's why I continue to focus solely on the Bronx.
Now, you also have an interesting perspective that I noticed, doing my research on you. You call the Bronx the forgotten borough.
It is.
Please elaborate on that. Why do you feel like everybody forgets about the Bronx? Because I'll be completely honest with you, I feel like the Bronx gets a bad rap.
I mean, it does. It does. And it'll continue to, because people think of people that don't live in the borough.
Yeah.
They hear the Bronx, they're like, oh, that's the hood. But let me tell you, there's good and bad of everywhere. We were just talking about gentrification, a few minutes ago, and the Bronx is slowly but surely being gentrified. People are being priced out of Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan. They don't know where to go. So where are they going? They're going to
Mott Haven is where they're going.
They're going to Mott Haven. So like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Mott Haven apartments were like $800.
Now they're luxury lofts.
Now they're luxury lofts. So that tells you right there that it's slowly being gentrified, and a lot of parts of the Bronx are still untouched. But remember, that when gentrification comes along, the culture goes along with it. And people that have lived in these neighborhoods for 40, 50 years, 60 years, where are they going to go? I'm a product of a mom and pop shop. My dad has had his business for 45 years. He has the oldest mom and pop pet store in the Bronx.
Oh, wow.
If, let's say, Montefiore, a hospital, which owns the majority of the buildings in that area, they come along one day, they're like, you know what, we're buying this building, and the 4 storefronts that are in this building, they're gone.
You don't think Peter will save you?
I don't think so. My dad is 65 years old. He's not going to pack it in and move to somewhere else. He's going to retire. He's going to not go, what is he going to do? Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, a lot of these people are like that. They are forced out, and they end up in different parts, and the culture of the Bronx, of these neighborhoods, change. Mott Haven, they were trying to change the neighborhood into the piano district.
Yes.
I mean, come on, like seriously.
Yes. There's a big art scene out there though. Right now.
There is.
Yeah.
There is, but again, it's slowly being gentrified. You go around 138th Bruckner, where Mott Haven is, and you see a lot of people that do not look like they're from the Bronx walking around there. It's changed a lot. Again, it just changes the whole, the culture of the neighborhood. And a lot of people are against it, including myself. But again, that's me just being a Bronx born and bred, dude. And I see this every single day. And you see, like I said, areas of like Astoria and Long Island City, it's completely changed. There will be no way in hell any of us could be able to afford to live around there.
Now, as an artist, especially a photographer, when you see that type of gentrification, does it hurt you because stylistically you feel like you're not going to get that raw authenticity that you're looking for?
Yes, absolutely, especially in the Bronx, because you get that raw, street feeling in the Bronx as opposed to other boroughs. So that's why I really capture, like a bodega with an old storefront, or a street corner that has, a pre-war, building. I try and capture that, because a lot of these buildings and businesses, they're changing. So, like, for example, there was an old bodega in Mott Haven on 138th, and it had a really old school sign. Guess what? They changed owners, and the sign is like now, lit up and like super modernized, and it just changed the entire aspect of not only the neighborhood but the business, and it just gives it a different look.
Yeah, no, it changes the aesthetics entirely, man.
It sure does.
Yeah.
It sure does.
Oh, yeah. That must be really sickening, man.
and I have a picture of the original bodega, and it looks incredible. It looks like something out of like a 70s movie.
Yeah.
And now you look at it, and it's just, doesn't look the same.
Now, as I was crossing those bridges, I noticed, and a little birdie told me as I was crossing that bridge, when I saw that Puerto Rican flag up there, and I think that was Orchard Beach, if I'm not mistaken.
It sure was.
Fronting like it's Puerto Rico. It's a 718 thing, the campaign.
Yeah.
Was that sponsored by AT&T? Is that some collaboration that you did with them?
It was.
By the way, folks, this is the photographer who took those photos, and it's a 718 thing. There's their man right here, Mr. 718.
Yeah, they reached out to me in the spring, and they wanted me to be a part of this campaign. They saw that my feed was, again, Bronx-centric. The campaign was different area codes. So they had 718, 212. They had other cities. They had 305 for Miami. They had a whole bunch of different cities that were part of this campaign. The 718 one, they wanted to have some Bronx photos in there. So one of their PR people had reached out to me and they asked for like 20 photos. It had to be, you know, no faces, no logos. I sent a bunch of stuff. And they chose 3 of them. The first one was a gentleman selling fruits on 170th and Grand Concourse. His face was kind of to the side, and he was selling fruits. That one was just on a digital kiosk. So it would change like every 10 seconds. It was in Chelsea, Chinatown, and in Tribeca. The second one was the Puerto Rican flag one. And the original picture is a scene of people dancing around the flag on the boardwalk. Now, obviously, they couldn't use their images, so they just cut the people out and used the flag. What was cool about that is they put my handle on the picture, so people were tagging me, and you know, they saw Edgar Santana on it. They knew right away that it was mine. But it was an incredible feeling to be a part of that campaign. That billboard was in 3 locations in the Bronx and 2 in Brooklyn. And again, I got a lot of recognition for that. And it was incredible to be able to see my photo in my home borough on a billboard. And, you know, it was incredible. It was an incredible feeling.
You know, I really enjoyed that photo because it really encompasses what it's like being Puerto Rican and growing in New York City. I mean, if you were Puerto Rican growing up in New York City, you were spending time on Orchard Beach. You were salsa dancing with your family. Every Sunday you were there. You know, we didn't care that it was a man-made beach. It was a great place to go and celebrate family life.
That's right.
And it still is that way now. I mean, I was up there last year on July 4th with my father.
Yeah, they definitely cleaned it up a lot. And, you know, it's still, you know, you still go there, and they call it the, you know, Little Puerto Rico, basically. Yeah. You know, because it's like you go there and it's like you think you're on the island. You know, people dancing on the boardwalk and everybody with their flag. But going back to the billboard, I actually have a funny story about it.
Oh, man, yeah, do tell, please.
News 12 Bronx had reached out to me, and they wanted to interview me about the billboard. The biggest one was on the foot of the 3rd Avenue Bridge. It was underneath a restaurant called Empanology, which unfortunately they closed down due to gentrification.
Yes.
But
darn gentrification, you know, it's everywhere.
The billboard was right then, you know, right there, and News 12 reached out. They wanted to interview me underneath the billboard, so I did. It aired, and you know, again, I got a lot of recognition for it. A viewer had reached out to News 12 asking if I can contact the viewer. They had no other information. So I said, okay, I'll reach out to the woman. It was like an older lady. I called her up, and she was like, listen, I saw the segment. Congratulations, you know, like real Boricua. You know, congratulations, all this. So I'm like, you know, thank you. I really appreciate that. And she goes, you know, the reason why I love the photo so much because that's my flag in the picture. And I'm like, no. Really? Like, it can't be. Yeah. I mean, there's like tons. I mean, there must be at least 200 flags on the boardwalk. She goes, no, that's my flag, and I know. Oh. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's cool. Like, look at that. Your flag is on a billboard. And she goes, well, the real reason why I'm reaching out is wondering if you could take care of me. You know, maybe you could throw me something. And I'm like, oh, that's not happening.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Happening. Like, yeah.
That's not happening. First of all,
your initial isn't on the flag. I apologize.
I said, well, first of all, I said, you don't own the rights to the Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah, facts.
There's nothing on the flag that shows your likeness, your name, your face, anything like that. So there's no way in hell that I'm gonna take care of you. And she's like, oh, well, you know, we're both from the Bronx, we're Boricua. I thought, you know, maybe you could throw me something. And I'm like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's not happening. She goes, oh, all right, well, thank you. I just wanted to congratulate you. Yeah, you got people.
Well, that's that Bronx hustler mentality, man. You know, if you don't know if you don't ask, but you can get there. You could have said yes. I'll give you $20.
Listen, the nerve of this lady to actually reach out to the news station for me to call her, and then for her to be like, "Yo, trying to throw me something." Nah, that's not happening.
No, but I'll be honest with you. You know, it's funny, but also, I mean, as a person that grew up in New York, you know, Puerto Rican descent, like, you know, like we're really proud of when people come out and do and are part of movements such as this, because, you know, the 718, if people don't know, that's the area code that was used, you know, back in the 80s, 90s
for all boroughs. Right.
You know, 212 was Manhattan, and all the other ones on the outskirts was 718.
That's right.
And you know, through the course of that time, you know, Puerto Ricans were stereotyped, you know, do kind of because of like the West Side Story situation where, you know, we're criminals, we're affiliated with gangs, or women are subservient to our men. And you know, in the Bronx, you know, our culture was vibrant, and we kept, you know, we kind of bridged the gap for other Latinos to Americanize themselves. And, you know, when I see that flag at Orchard Beach, it reminds me of that. It reminds me of the struggle, and I appreciate the fact that, you know, you encompass that in the photo, and that AT&T, you know, put it up there. I
also have when that came out, there's a few like super pro Boricua feeds on Instagram, and one of them had reposted it, and they destroyed the fact that AT&T had used the likeness of the flag. And they were saying that it was part of the gentrification movement, things like that. So, you know, I went in and chimed in and, you know, kind of defended because it's my photo.
Yeah.
But some people were like completely against it. But I'm like, you know what? All these people that are talking bad about this, but yet they got like the PR Air Force Ones and the Old Navy shirts with the PR flag. And what about that? You know, they're making a big deal saying, well, AT&T is making money off the island. Well, again, what about Nike? What about Old Navy? What about even the Gap has certain things? Like, what about all that stuff?
I mean, let's be totally real about this. America and commercialization of Puerto Rico has been going on since 1917. Come on.
Exactly. But my thing is, like, yo, people were actually OD straight up, like, arguing in the comment section. I'm talking about, it wasn't like 5 or 6 comments. I'm talking about like at least 500 comments.
Oh, so you were bombarded by negative comments because of the fact
not on my feed, but the person had reposted the billboard itself, and people were just commenting on the fact that AT&T was, you know, kind of you know, again, using the flag for financial purposes. But again, I knew if I knew that was the fact, I wouldn't have, submitted my photo to that. I knew that it was being, you know, just being used. And on top of that, they used a local photographer also. Yeah. It's not like they had some random person come in, take a picture of a flag and like, oh, yeah, it's a 718 thing. They using a local person born and bred here. And why should people be hating on that?
Well, my thing is that we shouldn't be shooting that kind of energy towards each other, to be completely honest with you.
Absolutely.
Because like I just told you, I thought it was something beautiful that you did. It gives me great childhood memories. I mean, Puerto Rico's going through. We have corrupt government. Obviously, we just got rid of Ricky Rosselló.
That's right.
You know, we also have people out there starving with no opportunities. There's, very high unemployment rate over there.
True.
We got earthquakes every day now. The hurricane decimated us. Yeah. So, you know, it's not really a great, you know, it's a time to band together and to push each other forward and try to build avenues to try to gain some kind of income equality because, we're struggling right now. You know, and if, you know, it seems like if you're not acting, if you're not boxing, if you're not a baseball player, you know, if you're not dancing, if you're not a singer, the things that we're known for, if you're not beautiful, you know, the Miss America pageant, like there's really no other way to get out there because industry is not something that's prevalent out there on the island. You know, it's unfortunate, and the education system over there is not as great as it used to be, you know, back when, you know, our parents was growing up.
Yeah, with everything going on, a lot of people that are living there are trying to leave because of all those things you stated. And it's sad because, again, I haven't been there since 2002. So I haven't seen the change from that time till now, but just seeing, you know, on, you know, news, media, social media, the way the island has changed, but the fact that the island is still beautiful, you know, we shouldn't be attacking each other also.
No, I don't think so, man. I think we're too small as it is, man. You know, we have to push each other forward, to be completely honest with you.
True.
I'm not saying that we don't, but like things of, for me, it's a little petty to say like, you know, AT&T is making, you know, money off a photo that's, you know, let's be honest, it's a beautiful photo.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, and you know, and it represents, you know, our culture, our vivacity, the vibrant attitude that we have towards life. Even after all the things we go through, we still try to remain positive, and that's the good thing of our people. We try to be as positive as possible.
100% agree with that, but on top of that, how Bronx can you get with having a flag in Orchard Beach?
Yes.
You know, like that is so Bronx. You know? So like that was why they chose that, and that's why like that photo itself did so well on that campaign because again there was such a Bronx thing.
That's the Bronx.
And once you saw that, you're like, damn. And it's crazy because on my way down here, the last billboard was on the Bronx Terminal Market, and they just took it down.
Oh man. Oh man.
They just took it down. So it was up for a bit though. It was.
How long did the campaign run for?
The campaign, the first one was on the Bronx Terminal Market. First came out in April.
Okay.
And they literally just took it down. So it was out for a while. Yeah. The majority of it was during the summer months though, but that last one they just took it down.
But you're not stopping being the Bronx man. You're everyday Bronx.
Absolutely not.
Now you're the curator.
I curate Fridays. I'm one of 4 people.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wow, this guy does this every day. So I'm like, you're posting literally every day. You're a monster.
I'm one of 4 people that help curate the feed. I've been doing it now for about 4 years now. So what I do is I look through hashtags of people that have hashtag Everyday Bronx, and I repost their photos on Fridays. But I am definitely not the only person that's doing that. I'm one of 4 people. The main person, her name is Raina Santos.
Okay.
And she's incredible. But right now it's the biggest Bronx-based feed currently on Instagram. Have close to 40,000 followers.
And I love it. I'll be honest with you. One of the things I love the most about it is the way it captures all the cultures that are in the Bronx.
Right.
You know, especially the Muslim culture.
Right.
You know, because I mean, it's a huge Muslim population out in the Bronx, and we grew up with them. They got unfortunately, they go through a lot of things here in America as well, and it's good to see them all, with that sense of camaraderie and that picture, doing what they do, man, enjoying the American lifestyle.
Well, I mean, the Bronx is extremely diverse.
Yes.
Queens is diverse, Brooklyn is diverse, but the Bronx is extremely diverse, and a lot of people tend to forget that because, again, Queens being, I think, the diverse, square mileage in, I think, the country.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
With the Bronx being extremely diverse, too, a lot of people tend to forget that. There's pockets of, Dominicans, there's pockets of Puerto Ricans, there's pockets of Irish, which is an area that I live in. There's a pocket of Western African people that live right off of Grand Concourse. There's a huge Albanian population in the Bronx. There's a huge, still a huge Italian population.
Yeah, there's Little Italy.
Exactly.
You have an Irish population out there as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, there's a huge diversity in the Bronx that a lot of people tend to forget. But again, we definitely like to show that, and I like to show that also on my own photos too.
No, and I appreciate that, man, to be completely honest with you. And I think it's because of the fact that, unfortunately, the Bronx has the lowest income medium.
Very true.
Out of all the 5 boroughs. And also, whenever they want to start a new project that, either it was with mental institutions or, they're talking about moving Rikers Island out there now.
Yeah, very true.
It's unfortunate, man. It's like people tend to, unfortunately, New York City tends to try things out there first, if you will.
I heard somebody recently say the Bronx was a wasteland. And I'm like, nah.
But it's
Bronx is not a wasteland. Like I said, there's good and bad of everywhere. So, people that don't live in the borough, when they're like, oh, I live in the Bronx, they're like, damn, that's the hood. You really live there? Like, come on. If you don't live in the Bronx or you've never been to the Bronx, you really don't know the Bronx. But the Bronx is a beautiful borough. I'm extremely proud to be from it. And again, that's why I really showcase Bronx life in my photography, because I want people to see what the Bronx looks like. Not only people that do live in the Bronx, but people that live outside the Bronx.
Now, what's going through your mind when you're picking a photo to hashtag for the everyday? It's everyday Bronx.
Yeah, everyday Bronx.
Hashtag everyday Bronx.
Me personally, when I'm choosing a picture on Fridays, I just look for something that's creative, that's original, but that's very Bronx also. From my personal feed, when I'm walking the streets daily, I always try to frame something. If I see something, I try and take a picture. But I just want just everyday life, everyday life. I don't do, portraits. I don't do people posing, things like that. Just everyday life of people walking, people sitting on a stoop, a car, things like that. Just everyday life. Spontaneous stuff.
Okay.
The majority of the photos prior to about 8 months ago were solely with my iPhone. Everything was mobile. Up until March of last year, I've been strictly shooting 35 millimeter film.
Oh, beautiful.
So
that's becoming lost art, man. You just because what made you decide to go that route?
Instagram is constantly changing. You know, there's a lot of fads that come and go. You know, there's a few photographers that I do follow that are strictly film, and they really inspired me to just challenge myself and do something a little different. So I bought a cheap point and shoot $15 camera on eBay, bought some film on Amazon, and just started shooting. And since then, I carry a camera with me every day. It's a challenge because you don't know what you get. Again, when you're shooting digital, you shoot a shot, you see right away, I don't like this, let me take it over. With film, it's not like that. You don't know what you have until you develop the film. And a roll is 36. So you don't get to see what you shot until you finish that 36 roll. It's also expensive. It's expensive. There's a few.
I guess that's why we went to this this new era here. Save a little bit more money with those SD cards. You know?
Yeah. But you know, it's expensive to not only buy the film but also to process the film. There's a few places in the city that do it. For example, a roll of film color is like maybe $6-7 for a roll. To develop it, it's like $12. So you're right there. You're kind of spending already $20 just for a roll of 36 when it could be blank. And it's happened to me that I've shot and I don't load it right, and I develop it, and they say like, "Hey, thanks, but this is blank, so you'll get credit for the next time."
Oh, man, wow.
Really?
So what do you take it to, like the Laker Gallery? Like because I know that the Laker Gallery used to be out there in like a NoHo area.
I go to two places. It's one in Soho called Color House. It's a lab. And I also go to another place called K&M. It's a camera store in Tribeca.
Okay.
And I just, I made friends with the guy in K&M. So when I go drop off my color film, he does it for me in an hour because he knows that I'm coming from the Bronx.
Oh, man, that's dope.
So, so they usually take about a day or two to do it. So he does it for me really quick. But I just love the aesthetic of the film. I love the way it looks. It looks it's exactly the look that I'm, looking for.
In terms of like color tone, texture of the color.
Grainy, very grainy, things like that. Black and white film, again, the same thing. It's very, very grainy, gives it a completely different look. But again, it's a challenge. It's trial and error. You don't know what you're getting. There's times that I've shot and I'm like, oh, this is going to be killer. And then when I get the roll, it's blurred or it's the exposure is off. It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, it's a science, that's for sure.
It is a science. Yeah. And even though I would love to develop at home, but I'm not comfortable with having the chemicals around my wife and in my house and stuff like that. So that's why I just get it done professionally. Now,
in addition to Everyday Bronx, we got one of my other favorite things that you're doing right now.
What's that?
Because we all like to drive, It's the American way.
Yeah, Cars of the Bronx.
Cars of the Bronx. At Cars of the Bronx.
I got some stickers for you here. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Stickers, everyone.
Yeah, cars. I've always been into cars since I was a kid. I had a ton of Matchbox cars, remote control cars, posters. I always had, this love for cars. Classic cars. As I got older and I started to appreciate the art of photography, I started figuring, you know what? Car is a great subject to capture. I started realizing on my phone that I had a folder with maybe about 200-300 pictures of cars all over the Bronx. I would post them once in a while. They would do really well, and people were like, "Oh, we want more of this," So, you got to give them what they want. Yeah. So I created in 2016 the Cars of the Bronx feed and hashtag. And since then, it kind of just took off. I get people that have classic cars, owners, reaching out to me constantly. How can I get my car featured on the feed? And
so is it only classic cars, or are you doing all types of cars?
No. Only classic cars. The oldest car I've shot was probably a 1920s Ford Model A, and the most modern car was probably like a 1992 like Porsche 911. That's like 92 was probably like the cutoff. Like I don't go anything. It's all classic vintage cars. There's a huge car culture in the Bronx that a lot of people unfortunately just don't know about. You may live in a neighborhood and you see all these junk cars and you're like, this is trash. I need to get it out. I see beauty in that.
Yeah.
I see beauty in that. So with my work, I'm very fortunate enough to work in the field. So I'm in different areas in different neighborhoods. So I come across a lot of them. And a lot of these cars are in residential areas. Many of them are driven daily, and a lot of them are just kind of parked there.
Yeah.
So that's where I come in, and I start shooting them. And to date, I've probably, and this is not an exaggeration, I've probably shot maybe close to 800 cars.
Oh man! And in addition to that, you actually bumped into like a movie set or something where like you
two times.
Two times, okay.
Yeah, 2 times. The first time was about 2 years ago. One of my followers had DM'd me and they were like, "Yo, they're shooting by the courthouse. Go check it out." I went and they were filming The Irishman.
Yes.
The Netflix movie with Robert De Niro.
The great 4 hour.
4 hours. It's a great movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
Too long.
But you really have to love Martin Scorsese and Pacino. I mean, you grew up in New York.
Yeah.
You love those guys. You'll watch a movie of theirs if there's 6 hours.
Huge Scorsese fan.
Yeah.
My favorite movie is probably Taxi Driver of all time. But
that's a good flick.
I ran into this movie set and they had about maybe 40 classic 70s cars, caddies and all these cars. And, I was just there and I started taking pictures and I kind of like started handing these out, the stickers to like the guys that were, roping off the area so people don't walk. But some of the pictures, if you look at them, the people that are walking in the photos are wearing costumes from the 70s. So the picture actually looks like it's from the 1970s. Oh,
man.
And not like it's...
You must, as a photographer, man, you must have lost your mind internally, but you're like, I got to get this shot.
I did. I actually still have a lot of them that I haven't posted. But I was like in heaven. Another time, this was during the summer, so it was about maybe a few months ago. I was walking in Mott Haven, and I saw a trailer with about 6 classic cars, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they're filming around here. So I started following it. They were filming the new West Side Story with Steven Spielberg. He's directing it. So
there's a lot of people are keeping a close eye to that one. They're looking for stereotypes. Exactly, oh my God! Don't make us look crazy too.
For real, especially in that movie.
In this century as well, please do me the favor.
For real, I'm hoping that he does it right. But
look, we're photographers and we have podcasts as well. We can do it all now.
So the entire block, both sides of the block, had all cars from the 50s.
Okay.
And luckily, I had an extra. I shot them all with film, and luckily, I had an extra roll, and I was just like, just taking pictures. And it's just an incredible feeling when you walk on a movie set, and especially something that you shoot cars, and then you come across about 40 of them. Like I've gone to shows like the Orchard Beach used to have a car show. There's also a car show every month in Throgs Neck and Ferry Point Park during the summer months. And there's like 200 cars that go there, but I love finding cars in the wild, in the street.
Finding cars in the wild.
Yeah. Like when I'm driving, I see a car, I'll pull over.
That should be like a sport, man.
To me, it is. And honestly, I've become kind of like a master with finding them because like you could look down a block and you could see if the shape is different from all the cars, and I know that there's one there.
Oh man, that's amazing. Man, you're a real hard worker. I mean, is it hard balancing like family life with like what you're doing, or is it something that just meshes together perfectly?
No, I think it all meshes together. The fact that I work in the field daily, it really helps me continuing to explore neighborhoods and shoot consistently. With family, my wife is like my number one fan, so she's always pushing me and, again, to challenge myself. But it kind of all meshes together, It really does mesh together. But, it's just, I just try to have fun with it. That's it.
That's cool, man. That's cool. You got somebody motivating you in the cut.
Very true.
That's always great to have, man.
Absolutely.
Always makes life worth living and things worth doing.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
That's freaking awesome, man.
Thank you.
Really... That's something I can respect for sure, man.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Santana.
Yeah.
Before we go, could you please give us all your handles so that people can follow you, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my main feed is E Santana. That's my main personal feed, and then you have the Cars feed, which is Cars of the Bronx, and then the feed that I help curate, which is Everyday Bronx. And those are the three, feeds that I'm most involved with. With the cars feed, I post every single day, every day. For the past 3 years, I've posted every single day. Try to keep that consistent.
That Instagram life is like that, apparently, huh?
Yeah, I just, you know what? I gotta keep up with I hate following feeds that I love and they post like once a month.
Yeah.
I hate that. So I post very consistently, but the Cars of the Bronx feed, I post every day. But yeah, so E Santana, Cars of the Bronx, and Everyday Bronx are the three feeds that I'm a part of, and I'm very proud to be a part of them. And again, I do it for the people. I want my audience. I love to feed my audience what they want. Again, the best, the reason why I do it is because, again, I love being creative and I love being just, different. I want to be able to put that stuff out there.
And if there's one thing you could say to the people of the Bronx right now, what would it be, sir?
Damn, that's a good question. You kind of put me on the spot. I don't know. The Bronx is, again, the last true borough, and just, we fight for it. We're not going to give up easy by these developers, anything like that. And, if you're not from the Bronx, come check out the Bronx, man. There's a lot of dope spots. I'll tell you where to go.
All right, cool. You already know. Spots. You got his Instagram, so there's no excuses now. If you want to hit up the Bronx, you already know. Mr. Santana is willing to tell you where to go. Thank you for joining us today, sir. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you.
I appreciate it.
This is the Angel of Words Show. Talk to you later. The Bronx is a beautiful place. I've always loved it. I've always will love it. So please follow Mr. Edgar Santana on all his social media platforms. And to the Bronx, one love. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Angel of Words.